habitats in India are dying. In fact, 6 cheetahs have died at Madhya Pradesh's Kuno National Park so far, 3 cubs and 3 adults. The latest tragedy is a big blow to the Cheetah Reintroduction Project. Now, conservationists are worried. They have reiterated that India is not the land of cheetahs. Now, the government must consult think tanks and relocate them. But the government is yet to take a decision on cheetah relocation. Meanwhile, the government has constituted a cheetah project steering panel to review progress, monitor and advise on the reintroduction plan. On the other hand, it is all set to reintroduce 7 cheetahs at the Kuno National Park. Now, 7 more cheetahs, including 2 females, will be released into the wild by 3rd week of June. The officials have said there is no reason to worry and that everything is normal. Now, the cheetah panel chief has also decided to not fence their habitat like the ones in South Africa and Namibia, as it is against the basic tenets of wildlife conservation. Now, the experts from South Africa and Namibia who are helping reintroduce cheetahs in India have recommended fencing to prevent poaching, habitat fragmentation and minimize human-animal conflict. But India wants to do otherwise. Well, only time will tell whether these changes will add to the cheetah crisis or not. My colleague Govind joins me on the broadcast over the phone lines. Govind, good evening. Of course, once again, the Kuno National Park is a talking point. But this time around, it's about the fact that the South African experts are recommending fencing, but the Indian panel believes otherwise. Why is that? Because they've also gone on to call it bogus?
Yeah, absolutely. Number of points on what the government officials are considering. You know that already the study tour to Namibia has been sent from India to just study that what all the betterment can be done for these cheetahs which are still there in Kuno National Park, and planning for taking 7 more cheetahs, including 2 females, from in the coming 3rd week of June month. And this is also the planning. But before that, you know that number of advices are being taken, and definitely what we can understand that the chairman of 11 members committee, who is also giving its advices that what all the efforts should be made to make these cheetahs safe in Kuno National Park, because now question is being raised on the climate or the atmosphere of Kuno National Park, because one after others, in last 2 months we have lost 6 cheetahs altogether, which is really so disappointing one. It's a kind of setback to the ambitious project of PM Narendra Modi. So definitely planning for taking more cheetahs to Kuno National Park, whether they will be finding for some alternative places, other national parks. Also there in Madhya Pradesh, as Union Minister Bhupen Yadav and also State Minister in Madhya Pradesh Vijay Shah told that Sanjay Sagar Sanctuary can also be the another alternative for these cheetahs which are still there. And also fencing is also not a kind of best option, as it's also being a kind of advice from experts. So number of advices are being collected from the various experts in the same concern.
Right, Govind, thank you very much for getting us the latest on that. But to take this conversation further, I have Ajay Suri, wildlife expert and wildlife filmmaker, joining me here on the program. Ajay Suri, thank you very much for taking the time out and speaking to us on Mirror Now. Of course, the Kuno National Park once again becomes a talking point. But this time around, if we could just start off with the fact that, in your opinion, has the plan of the government backfired, or do you believe that there are just big challenges revolving the cheetahs in India? How do you look at that before we get into other aspects of this?
See, the death of so many cheetahs, particularly two adults and then 3 cubs, it's a matter of great concern. But to say that the program has derailed or it has failed, that would be a bit premature. You know, that would be giving unnecessary mileage to the naysayers who in the very first place were dead against the move of bringing cheetahs to India. I think it's a setback. And the way I see it, it calls for some kind of a course correction now. You know, we have to think beyond Kuno. Don't forget that last month itself, NTCA, that is, the senior authorities of Madhya Pradesh Forest Department had written to NTCA, that is National Tiger Conservation Authority, to shift some of the cheetahs outside of Kuno. And one of the proposal which came through was one of the relocated zone. One of the zones that they could be relocated was Mukundra Hills in Rajasthan. Now that seems to be an excellent idea on paper, although that place is lacking, in certain things. For instance, sufficient prey base. But I'm sure that if enough groundwork is done, even this handicap can be overcome. Certainly, this is not. I do not see these deaths as the end of the road for cheetahs in India.
Mr. Suri, but experts from South Africa and Namibia who are helping reintroduce cheetahs in India have recommended fencing in their habitats to, of course, prevent poaching, habitat fragmentation and minimize human-animal conflict. But what we pick up is Rajesh Gopal, who's the chairman of the 11-member committee of the Cheetah Steering Committee, that is, has called it bogus. Now, what do you think of that? If you could also break it down for us, because these are, of course, different conditions when we speak of them having come from another country and to actually adapt and adopt to the free ranging of India?
I'll tell you, I personally feel, although I'm not a cheetah expert, I personally feel that in South Africa, where the experts are on record as saying that the cheetahs cannot survive in an unfenced area. So more than a dozen attempts were made to make cheetahs survive in the unfenced, and all those attempts failed. So I think the way I look at it, this is one big misstep which our forest authorities seem to have done. They should have, taken this argument, taken this condition into consideration that cheetahs generally cannot survive in an area where the perimeter is not fenced. So why this was not thought of beforehand? This is something which bogs my mind and understanding. This could have been done, but again, you're right. The conditions in South Africa are very different from conditions in India. And secondly, let me tell you, the cheetahs in India, in Kuno, they still haven't faced the real challenge, which will come on two fronts. One is the man-animal conflict. I don't know how conducive the villages which are around Kuno are to the arrival of this new guest. And secondly, the presence of predators like tigers and leopards in particular. They in Africa, leopards pose a big threat to.
Right. Mr. Suri, I'd have to interject you there, but thank you very much for joining us on the show and, of course, giving us your perspective and also saying that, of course, there is a need for course correction. So one can only hope that will be taken into cognizance at the earliest. But for the moment, we leave it at that and we shift our focus to other news that we're tracking on the urban debate. Now,